I was scrolling through Steam the other day looking for a new game to try out, and that's when I found The Legend of Khiimori. A game set during the 13th century Mongolia where you play as a yam courier, delivering goods across the land on your trusted steed and discovering nature and different locations along the way and overcoming any obstacles and dangers that may be ahead. And delivering goods isn't the only thing you do. The other big element of this game are your horses, which you have to take care of but also train. On paper, that is a simple base for a very unique game filled with moments of calm, immersion and a great sense of connection with nature as you ride through the land. The idea and the vision for this game stuck with me, and despite it being in a very young state of early access, I still chose to get it and see what it had to offer. It's always a bit of a gamble getting these new early access games, but it was the premise and the setting I couldn't resist. And from what I can see right now, the game has big potential if the devs play their cards right. But it's a far cry from perfect as it is right now, and it's the game's good and bad that I will be discussing, and if it's ultimately worth getting in its current state. So, let's ride. As said before, the game takes place during 13th century Mongolia, and upon first impression, the game is absolutely gorgeous and fits the setting perfectly. The landscape is vast and open, mostly untouched by civilization, and there is a great variety of terrain, with everything from big open plains, forest, streaming rivers, icy mountains, and even a scorching desert. The graphics are quite good, and especially the lighting gives off a natural and warm feel to the game overall, which is perfect for these games that has a big emphasis on nature. Sometimes I could almost feel the warmth of the sun bouncing off the main character and piercing through the forest. And it's through these lands that you and your horse will be doing your work, and the yam station at the center of it all. But as stunning as the environment is, the realization that I made was that it was lacking in the gameplay department. Specifically the game loop itself. It felt more like a point A to B with nothing interesting gameplay wise happening in between, which was the main concern. And the lack of a story mode doesn't help at all. I acknowledge that it's early access and there is more in the way, but this video is about how it is right now and not how it may be in the future, because hopefully something will come up to address these issues, and I want the game to be as good as everybody else. This is more for the people thinking about if it's worth getting in its current state, but I'll bring up the issues later as I want to start with some of the positives. First off, we have the horse itself. It will be the core part of the gameplay, as without it, you're not getting anywhere. And the game places a great deal of focus on the horse aspect, as they aren't just a tool for you to get around. They feel like living creatures. You have to feed them, keep them safe and happy. It's not super difficult, but it's a nice touch. And one of the core mechanics that tie the horse to the courier aspect is that you need to keep the cargo on the back of your horse balanced. Too much weight on one side causes the horse to stumble while traveling and hurt itself and the cargo. It's a bit like a puzzle every time you accept a quest to deliver goods, and even more so when you have to deliver to multiple places in a single trip. It's a creative way to make the player optimize space and weight. It becomes really important later on when you start receiving more cargo, and I really started to enjoy it the further I got into the game. It's a realistic touch that helps you immerse yourself and get you to start treating your horse more like a living, breathing creature, as opposed to other games where that feels like an afterthought. Beyond taking care of the horse, you also have to train it by doing specific things based on what you want to train. For example, you want to train the horse to get stronger, make it carry more weight or heavier cargo. This is a great system because of the fact that it motivates you to play a certain way or challenge yourself by doing certain things in certain ways, like carrying heavier cargo. And even if you don't actively think about it, this system allows the horse to slowly grow and adapt to your playstyle. Eventually, you also get to buy better horses and even breed them, which allows you to make a horse tailored to a specific task, or just make a better horse overall. It's one of the main progressions of this game, and honestly, the list for all of the details and gameplay mechanics relating to the horse is way too long for this video. Just know, there is a lot of thought put into making the riding aspect feel as realistic and engaging as possible. They really took the horse riding genre to the next level, and there is a lot of depth and innovation here. And they're going to be adding even more to this game since this is just early access. The potential is honestly inspiring. And I love what they did with the snow, rain and sandstorms. They aren't just there to set the mood, they actively act as an obstacle as they pretty much block your view and challenges your navigation skills and awareness. And while trying not to freeze or overheat, these two elements act as a fun sort of obstacle and a bit of a stressor along the way that makes the world feel so much more active and alive. And on the topic of navigation, there's another cool feature, which is the route setting, which I found to be quite a nice take on navigation. Most games have a waypoint followed by an automatic pathfinding system, or just a marker on where you want to go. But in Khiimori, you make your own routes, putting down your own path and letting you take agency over which route you want to take and exactly how. It makes playing out a map feel more integrated to the game as a whole, and definitely a lot more fun than traditional map systems. Overall, I have to say, the game is really good at being a calm, lighthearted and relaxing experience at the moment. Now for the issues then, or the part where I feel like the game feels short, has to be the main gameplay loop, aka the courier work, where you deliver the goods. I'm not going to nitpick any of the early access jank, as those don't affect the gameplay loop itself and isn't the core of the issues that I have. So let's look at the gameplay. In this game you play as Nara, a yam courier. Your objective is simple, you pick up goods and deliver the goods to the scattered people across the land. But it is also your mission to discover new people and places to add to your route, expanding the yam station's reach and connecting different people. Route setting will be important to balance risk with speed, depending on which path you want to take, as there can be wolves or bears or any other threats like difficult terrain that can ruin the goods, so you travel at your own discretion. It's a pretty simple and straightforward gameplay loop, but the issues lies within the journey, so to say. From point A to B, there isn't much happening. It feels empty as there isn't much to it other than the nice scenery, but that only goes so far. And that lack of activity is what I feel is throwing away the game's potential right now. It should be the gameplay loop that glues every fantastic mechanic this game has, because right now they really don't feel connected or impactful overall. Yes, they're there, but they feel like an individual piece and not really a part of a whole. There isn't anything to glue it together, so to say. For example, there's this wind system in place where depending on where the wind blows, if your horse is going against it, it will lose stamina quicker, or if you're going alongside it, you don't lose stamina as much. This mechanic currently feels scattered and with no purpose, as it's just an inconvenience. But what if the wind system interacted with the weight system? Let's say the wind is blowing from the right side. Maybe you'd need to ride a little bit more to the left to keep the balance in check, or redistribute the weight more to the right, so when the wind blows, it's nicely balanced. Or something like that. It will get the player to be a bit more active and adapting to their current situation. Now this is just an example, but what I'm trying to say is that small elements like these, strategically placed throughout the journey, would benefit the gameplay as it will engage the player more during their journey, as opposed to just holding W and zoning out. I think trying to balance that calm, relaxing pace of the game with some small challenges along the way could be key. Another thing I found to be lacking is the sense of danger, specifically from the mobs in this game like wolves. They're there, but they're not as much of a threat as you can just avoid them easily or shoot them. Which, by the way, aiming on horseback is in slow motion, so it really isn't much of a challenge at all. And these threats are rarely seen in the first place from my experience. I wish they made you feel more sense of danger, like they would actually hunt you in a pack, or maybe expand their territory so you can't just, skip around, because right now you can just run through them because it's usually one or two, or just straight up shoot them. I'd like to see some more punishment for not engaging with them carefully. I think there could be a lot to improve on that aspect. The exploration also just comes down to finding some chests. Other than the beautiful scenery, there isn't much to find, no unique items or anything of the sort. So the exploration, which should be one of the strong suits of this game, feels pretty empty and shallow at the moment. I wish maybe they could play some lore related stuff, like maybe some notes or something you could read that explain the area and the culture or the people that lives there. Something to engage the player more than just opening a chest and then getting out of there. Something to pique your interest and make you want to explore more. That is something I think a lot of players are going to enjoy. And lastly, in fear of rambling on too much, I would like to mention the fact that the missions feel like they barely have any impact whatsoever outside of their new locations and money, which you pretty much only use for new horses, which is nice if you like breeding them, but outside of that, it feels pretty much useless. And after doing the first few deliveries, you've pretty much seen it all. There's no rewarding feeling there either, since there isn't anything to overcome or no sense of journey to complete the mission, and any sense of urgency at all. On one hand, it's nice not to stress about it, since it gives you freedom to do whatever you want, like explore or breed horses. But outside of that, there isn't much to experience otherwise. Maybe this story can help somehow, but unlike the other points that I've brought up, I really don't have a solution for this one yet, just some hope that it will be better and improve. So, to summarize in short, I feel like the game has some really good ideas and a lot of potential, just that the elements feel really lost and need something to put it all together into a more coherent experience. Other than that, I feel like the game could really stand out when it's finished, and I'm curious to see what they come up with. I've seen the roadmap and I'm excited for what's in store, and there's probably even more that's going to be added to that list too. I did enjoy spending my time in this game, even though I think it may have felt a bit empty at times. It still made for a nice and relaxing experience overall. Now, would I recommend this? Depends. If you don't care about the slow pace or just want the game with more meat on its bones, then I'd say to skip it, or maybe to take a look at it again once it's done. But for those who want a nice, calm and relaxing experience on horseback and just want to enjoy some nice scenery without thinking too much about the gameplay, then yeah, maybe you'd enjoy what's offered here. But even then, I'd approach it with some cautious optimism, just because it still has some polish that needs to be done, and some bugs, and just overall early access jankiness. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. Thanks for watching.